Now you can see the clock tower right over my shoulder. That's the main courthouse. We're now a few doors down in the District Court of Maryland building called the George P. Murphy Building, named after the late Mayor Murphy. We're in the District Court of Maryland. And this is the courtroom. It's much more modern than the other courtroom. And the Honorable Judge William H. Adkins III should be stepping out of that door momentarily. Okay. Judge Adkins, thank you for taking time to see us.
It's good to see you.
Good to see you. Tell us what is different about your courtroom than the other two courtrooms.
Well, the courtrooms themselves, there isn't a whole lot of difference, except ours is a little newer. The real difference is that the two courts do very different things. We are considered a court of limited jurisdiction, unlike the circuit court, which is a court of general jurisdiction. They can do just about everything. Our jurisdiction is limited by constitution and statute to certain things.
So you can do parking tickets, you can do bail hearings, you can do speeding tickets?
We can do, starting with the criminal side, which includes traffic, such as speeding tickets and parking tickets. We can do in our court, we can try cases in our court involving any criminal or traffic issue that does not involve a felony, what is by statute considered a felony. We can do felony bad checks, forgery, theft, and things like that, but we can't do violent felonies, armed robbery, murder, rape, drug distribution, and certain other named felonies we don't have jurisdiction to do. What we would do with those, if someone is arrested in the county charged with one of those, we would do a bail review hearing, and we would do probably a preliminary hearing, because we don't use grand juries in Talbot County to indict people as much as, say, in Baltimore or Montgomery County or places like that, where most people would be indicted by a grand jury. We don't do that, so we would have the preliminary hearing here to determine probable cause to send those cases on or not. But that's the criminal jurisdiction. It would also include, and this is somewhat on the criminal side, civil citations for underage possession of alcohol, open container in public, things like that. That would be somewhat on the criminal side, although they're considered civil citations. On the civil side, we have jurisdiction up to $30,000. Someone can request a jury trial if the amount in controversy exceeds $15,000. Otherwise, it starts out here, stays here if it's less than $15,000. How long
has district court been? How long has it existed?
Since 1971. It came into existence in 1971. It's a statewide court. The rules and laws that apply to the district court are universal to the entire state. In other words, if you were to go to Baltimore, Western Maryland, Southern Maryland, the Lower Eastern Shore, or anywhere else, you would be dealing with the same rules, the same laws, and the same procedures.
Now, when I was a journalist for the Baltimore News-American, there were courtrooms in each district in the city of Baltimore.
That's right.
But I thought they were called district courts in the 60s.
Well, they had different names back then.
Okay.
Some might have been called the district court. They might have been called people's courts. They might have been just called the traffic court. Here on the Eastern Shore, we call them magistrates' courts.
Okay.
Different ones in different parts of the state had different types of jurisdiction. Some did traffic, some did civil.
So you've been in this job for 27 years?
Yes,
since
1984.
Okay. And what percentage, what is the highest percentage of cases? Is it speeders?
Probably civil cases.
Such as?
Collection cases.
Oh, okay.
I couldn't give you an exact count. I didn't look at the statistics.
This is where a merchant would be coming in and trying to...
A credit card company, a merchant, or somebody collecting money for an unpaid debt. Whether it's someone who went to a local store and purchased merchandise and didn't pay for it, a credit card company that had extended the credit to somebody who hasn't paid on their credit card. The hospital, that's one of our large hospitals, are generally, we get a lot of doctor and hospital cases for people who haven't paid their bills.
Now what happens there is someone gets a judgment against them.
Right. Well,
people don't open their pocketbook up and pour it out.
No, well, the way it works is suit is filed in our court, or in the circuit court, but let's just say it's this court for our discussion, they would file a complaint. The person is served with a complaint and would have an opportunity to come in and contest or have a trial. And the first issue is whether they are obligated to the plaintiff or not. Was there a contract to extend credit? Did the hospital provide services? Did the doctor's office provide services? That's the first question. If that's answered in favor of the plaintiff, then the second question is, have the services been paid for or not? And we would determine then, if they have not been paid for, how much, and enter a judgment. And the only determination at that point is there money owed and how much money? Those are the two real bottom line questions in those civil cases. But those are probably our largest volume.
And then would it be speeders after that?
I would say traffic generally, not just speeding, but any traffic would be the next in volume, yes.
Now, being here and being a judge for 27 years, you had to have some interesting cases.
Well, I was thinking about that, and yes, we've had a variety of cases over the years. There's none that I could really, some have been tragic, some have been amusing.
Tell us an amusing one.
Well,
I can tell you've got several right there.
Well, I don't actually. I was thinking about that, and the ones that stick out are actually the tragic ones that are probably not appropriate for us.
No, I don't want to talk about tragic ones.
But it's a people's court, although it's called the district court. Most of the people that come to court in the state of Maryland are in the district court by volume statewide. As we've discussed, we have jurisdiction over traffic, which brings a lot of people in statewide for all kinds of different traffic things.
I wouldn't know anything about that.
Mm-hmm. That's right. But on the civil side, the same thing. Small claims, claims under $5,000. That's a volume docket. Lots and lots of cases and lots of people. So the district court actually affects more people than the larger court, the larger circuit court does, as far as volumes of cases. Obviously, the cases in the circuit court are far more complex, take longer to try, have more serious consequences both on the criminal side.
Have juries, which you do not?
We do not have jury jurisdiction at all. That's correct. Here, for any criminal case in which the sentence can exceed 90 days, someone can request a jury trial even up to and on the date of trial here. In a civil case, the amount is $15,000, but they must request a jury trial within a certain time prescribed by the rules of procedure to have a jury trial. But if someone does that, that trial goes to the circuit court for trial.
How about language? Is that a growing problem now?
Absolutely. We have a very large Hispanic population here in Talbot County. We'll have an interpreter here almost every day that we have criminal cases.
How about traffic?
Same. Traffic and criminal are tried on the same days here.
And that's a paid?
They are paid by the hour. They're contractual.
Because they have to be certified.
They are certified by the administrative office of the courts. They maintain a register of interpreters in different languages. We have direct access to Hispanic interpreters within a geographic region, and we use several different ones depending on who's available. There are times when we have to postpone cases because we do not have an interpreter on that given day, but the need for a Hispanic interpreter is on an almost daily basis here. Other languages that are fairly common, Russian.
Really? Russian in Talbot County?
No. Well, the cases are here in Talbot County. The people aren't necessarily. Remember, people coming through the county for any number of reasons on their way to someplace else.
Oh.
Coming here shopping as a tourist or just traveling through. We get a lot of Oriental, Korean, Vietnamese, those languages. We've had a fair number of Eastern languages, Pakistani, Indian, things
wow, that
like
must be very interesting.
Well, there's a fair number of business people who have businesses here and employees and things like that, and family members. So the answer is yes, it is getting languages, Hispanic language interpreters is relatively easy. Once you get beyond that, it can get a little bit complicated because of their availability, and they aren't local for the most part. We are getting them from someplace else.
And some of our Hispanic viewers today may want to ask the question, how do you become certified, and what do they get paid?
I don't know what they get paid. I'm not an administrative judge, fortunately. The interpreter program is all through the administrative office of the courts, which is in Annapolis. They run the program that certifies interpreters. They maintain the list. We have a book with addresses and so
And the reason for certifying an interpreter is you don't want to have a volunteer who knows the person they're translating for and changes what they're saying.
That's an issue. Family members is an issue with certain cases. You certainly find that, and I certainly don't speak a foreign language, so if I'm not getting a direct interpretation of what's being spoken in the courtroom, then that's a problem.
I thought you took French.
I did, but not well enough to
We lived across the street from each other for a number of years.
I did take French. I can read some French and understand spoken French if it's spoken slowly, but not to the level that would permit me to use that in a courtroom. The other reason for the AOC program is quality, so that the interpreters that we have are interpreting at a certain standard. They maintain what that standard is and what their duty is when they're in the courtroom and how they are to interpret whatever language it is. As to what they get paid, there's several different levels of interpreter, different levels of certification. They get paid a different level, plus mileage, I believe. And those standards are all maintained by the Administrative Office of the Courts. And we have someone who's an interpreter here.
They could call the Administrative Office of the Court in Annapolis and find out.
And how to get, yes, absolutely.
Right. What does that red button do?
That shuts off the recording system.
Are we being recorded right now?
Probably.
Yes, it says that the courtroom is recording whether it's in session or not.
That's true. We used to have issues with our recording, the various types of recording systems that the district court had starting in 1971. Early ones which didn't work very well. If someone, for instance, wanted to appeal a case to the circuit court and the appeal was on the record, such as a civil case. Criminal cases on appeal go up as trial de novo, meaning that you get a brand new trial. The whole case gets tried all over again. Regardless of what happened here, it's a whole new trial. In certain civil cases, they're on the record, which means the record is what goes up. Instead of a whole new trial, the lawyers argue the legal issues raised by the record. We had issues with the early recording devices that the court had that left gaps or were difficult for the transcribers to follow, and it wasn't a very satisfactory system. The system we've got now is very good. It's a recording system that's a digital type thing, I think.
What's your coolest piece of equipment in here?
I guess the recording, that is a bail review system, and I'll describe that in a minute.
Let's walk over.
Well, let me finish with the recording. The recording system maintained by the clerks, if you were to order a transcript, you don't get a transcript, you get a disc, which you can transcribe yourself or play. In order to make sure that we do not have gaps or problems with that system should it go down, which does happen from time to time with anything that's technological, there is a backup system that supposedly is on all the time. So yes, it's probably being recorded, and it's the backup system.
Okay.
And where that goes, I have no clue. This television monitor over here is part of our bail review system. The district court has a policy statewide that we will do video bail reviews. That means that instead of bringing the individual who's been arrested over here to the courtroom for a bail review, we can do it by video.
Okay, so across the street in the jail?
Yeah, and I'll explain. We have this here, the jail has a similar system there, and the circuit court has a similar system there. The policy of the district court for a long, long time, since Judge Sweeney was the chief judge, he was our first chief judge, was that we would use a video bail review system such as this in any location where the local jurisdiction would pay for it, but the district court would not pay for the funds to buy the equipment. In this instance, this is our second stage of equipment. Many, many years ago, we got a system when we were up in the circuit court building where the county council chambers now is. It was a telephone type system in which we had a telephone receiver and a picture. And that finally gave out. It didn't work very well after a while, and the county would not replace it for financial reasons. This came via Homeland Security grant, which the county arranged for. It's a marvelous system. It works. It has, every now and then something goes awry with it, but basically it works very well. There's multiple advantages. For instance, if I have a really busy docket, I can do the bail reviews when I get a break at some point in time. We call the detention center, and they can set them up in 5 or 10 minutes, generally speaking. The circuit court does the same thing. So we have the flexibility of being able to do bail reviews when it suits the rest of our docket, as opposed to before, we would have them in the lockup in the back.
So their upper body appears here?
No, you see all of them. There's a video like here. They would see me. They can see me.
So how does that see you? You have to wheel it around here?
No, I'm just sitting right up there. They would move this out into the courtroom with that camera pointing at the bench. The person in the detention facility can see me. I can see them. We talk back and forth just as if they were just like you and I are now, except they're over there and I'm over here. The advantage to us is we can, as I said, we can schedule the bail reviews at any time that's suitable, convenient, as opposed to realizing I have a lockup full of people for bail review that are waiting to be heard and need to be done.
Right.
And this, we can do it from a security perspective, from the detention center's perspective. They don't have to have people who are on the street taking people from the detention center over here and back again. For certain high-profile types of cases, the security issues can become pretty serious.
I'll bet.
We've had some cases here and in the circuit court involving very high-profile cases where threats are made against the defendant or whatever, and there's great concern. If we do those bail reviews by video, we eliminate those concerns. Not to mention the cost of bringing somebody's guards that have to
2 guards.
transport, yes, required to have 2 guards. If you have female prisoners, you have to have a female guard. And instead of having all of those people out of the detention facility transporting somebody here or to the circuit court for purposes of just for a bail review, we can do it by video.
That's great.
The district court and the circuit court and all of our courts are what is known as a court of record. Okay, what that means is that everything that goes on in this courtroom, everything that goes on in all of our proceedings, with the some exceptions, juvenile is one of those, though that's not open to the public. Some other types of cases, but none in the district court, are also not necessarily open to the public. A courtroom can be closed under some circumstances, not the district court. We don't have those kinds of cases here. But we're called a court of record, as is the circuit court. Everything that we do is on the record. Nothing is secret, nothing is behind closed doors, everything is open to access to the public. For instance, if you wanted to come in here and watch cases at any time, you could do so. You could report anything that you see that goes on in this courtroom. Could you film it? No. But you can report whatever goes on. Anybody has access to our files, again, except with some limited circumstances. It's a court of record. Those records are available for inspection by the public. And a bail review would be no different. That would be, if we didn't have the bail review, if we didn't have the video, the individual would be here in the courtroom, on the record, having her bail review hearing right here on the record in the courtroom, with people able to come in and watch.
How do you set bail? Based on the gravity of the issue?
There's a whole lot of issues. The first, dealing only with the issue of bail, okay? First of all, remember that everybody who's charged with a crime is presumed innocent until proven guilty, okay? Bail would depend on a variety of circumstances, the gravity of the offense. For instance, if I'm bail reviewing somebody who's charged with a rape or a murder or something like that, the offense is extremely serious. The potential consequences to the individual defendant, if convicted, are also very serious. So you have to take that into account. Is this somebody who might have some reason to flee, to avoid the consequences, or not? But let's take the average district court case, driving while suspended or intoxicated, a theft case, a forgery or uttering case, or something like that, a nonviolent type crime. The first thing that happens when someone is brought before the court is they're brought to the commissioner's office, which is in this facility in Talbot County. They are arrested by the police, either on a warrant previously issued by the commissioner or on the side of the road for some type of offense or through an investigation. The commissioner then determines what the bail is going to be. When they review they review with the individual who's under arrest all of the charges, all of the possible consequences, their right to a jury if applicable, their right to an attorney, all that is reviewed by the commissioner.
What are the hours of the commissioner? If somebody gets arrested for drunk driving at midnight, does that mean?
24/7. There's a commissioner on call or available in the facility 24/7 every day. Doesn't matter.
Okay.
Holidays. I mean, there's a commissioner that's always supposed to be available all the time. We actually have fairly long commissioner hours. We do have commissioners on duty in the evening hours.
These are not attorneys.
They are not attorneys necessarily. They can be, but they are generally not. They are specially trained. The district court has clerks, judges, and commissioners are the three basic groups.
Are judges required to be members of the bar in Maryland?
Yes, and we'll get to that in a second.
Okay.
On the qualifications and appointments of how you get to be a district court judge. But in any event, back to the bail review issues, on what do you consider? You consider, as I said, the nature of the charge, the person's connection to the community, how long have they lived here, if at all, are they from here, do they live in Maryland, are they from some other state, their prior criminal record, which the court has access to for purposes of a bail review hearing, things like that are all that you take into consideration. And the primary concern of a judge reviewing a bail in a case in this court would be, is this person going to return for their trial? What does it take to get them to return? They've lived here all their lives, they don't have a prior criminal record, or if they have, they always show up, then one would set a fairly low bail or even personal recognizance, which means they get released upon their signature. But the factors would depend on each case as individual. You would weigh each case individually as to what the various
So let's suppose you put a $10,000 bail on
Yes.
somebody, and then somebody doesn't have $10,000, but they do have a house.
They could pretend, well, that's, again, the judge has the authority to authorize the acceptance of other than cash. That could include real estate. It could include a professional surety, a bonds person who takes a percentage.
Are there bail bond people in Easton?
Oh, yes, there are. Yes, there are. And that's a private deal between the bail bondsman and the defendant. If I
Right.
set a $10,000 bond as to what the bonds person charges that person to post the bond is between them. We don't have anything to do with that. But I can set a bond that's a percentage. I can set a bond for, say, $5,000, 10%, which means they post $500 to secure their release. I can do an unsecured bond of, say, $10,000 where they have to sign that they agree to pay back the $10,000 if they don't show up, something like that. Real estate is frequently used. So there's a variety of ways someone can actually post the bond that's set by the court.
Have you ever grabbed somebody's house that didn't show up?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay.
But again, that would be something that would be done administratively by a different element within the court system.
Tell me how you became a judge.
Well, to become a district court judge, the Constitution sets the basic requirements for what one has to meet to be a judge, whether it's district or circuit or any of the other courts. You have to be 30 years old. You have to be a resident of Maryland. You have to be a resident for at least 6 months, resident of Maryland for at least 5 years. You have to be a resident of the jurisdiction in which you are applying for at least 6 months prior to the application, prior to the vacancy occurring. Let's say that someone retires from the district court and there's a vacancy. It doesn't matter where in the state that happens as long as it's an empty seat. What happens then is that the Administrative Office of the Courts sends out an announcement which is published in local papers, in the Daily Record, and various other publications indicating that there is a vacancy and that anybody who meets the basic constitutional requirements may apply. They fill out an application that's provided to the Administrative Office of the Courts. The governor, every governor since Governor Mandel has had a system of judicial appointment commissions. And what those commissions do is, and they're geographical, you would have a different one for our geographic region than you would from Anne Arundel County. Ours, I think, encompasses Dorchester and Caroline, but I'm not positive of that because they do, each governor shifts it around a little. So it may, since I'm not worrying about being appointed at this point in time, I'm not exactly sure what's covered by it. But it's usually multiple counties, several different counties. It used to include the whole district, which is the 5 Upper Shore counties. Now there's, I know one for the Upper Shore, and which counties ours covered, I don't know. But anyway, the commission reviews the applicants. They determine who they believe to be qualified to serve as a district court judge.
Now, does the local bar nominate?
Some people, the governor appoints some, the local bar nominates others. There have to be lay people. It's not all lawyers. It has lay people as well as lawyers
On the commission.
on the commission. And the governor determines who's going to be the chairperson of the local commission. She makes that appointment. The commission reviews the applications. They send a list of qualified names to the governor. The governor then reviews those names on the list, usually interviews everybody that's on the list. My experience has been that every governor has done that, and then the governor chooses, and that's how he chooses. You would have to ask different governors how they do that. They choose, and they appoint that person. The next stage for the district court is that you are subject to examination by the state senate. The appointment is made with the advice and consent of the state senate. The senate has I think it's called the gubernatorial nominating committee, or any person that the governor nominates for any position, be it a judge or some commission or some other thing that's appointed, they review. They then report out to the Senate at large as to qualified or not. They take a vote in the committee. The committee sends a report to the entire Senate, and the entire Senate then votes on whether that person is going to be approved to serve as a district court judge.
I'm familiar with that a little bit. In 1993, Governor William Donald Schaefer nominated me to hear cases of appeals from Workmen's Compensation Commission.
Okay.
And I had to be reviewed, and I had to appear before the Senate.
That's right.
And nominated. And I wasn't a lawyer,
right.
but I reviewed cases for with,
okay.
with two other people for 3 years.
Okay. The same process would go as far as once you're appointed, and judges have to meet the constitutional framework to be a judge. Once you've done that, and once the governor has picked from the list, then you go to the Senate, and the Senate can choose to accept or not accept that nomination.
Let me ask you about this courtroom. And Dorothy mentioned a few minutes ago, they're like church pews.
Right.
I've been in here when it's been packed before.
Yes.
And the police have their own special bench back there.
Right.
Do you have any suggestions to people that may be coming to appear before the court as to either how they may dress or how they may act or what they should do?
Sure. The basic requirements for dress is that we do not have a dress code, and that comes from Chief Judge Murphy on down from Chief Judge Bell. We are not allowed to exclude someone from their day in court, their access to the judicial system because of their dress. Now, what do we handle with regards to extremes? Someone who shows up without any clothes at all. Well, that's an issue. Or inappropriately, we've never had that. Inappropriately attired. We have had that, and the general rule is that you may exclude them from the courtroom during the general session because we don't want a distraction from the business of the court because of how someone appears. Bring them in, and they can have their day in court. But we are not allowed.
Give me a case. Describe a case that happened like that.
Bathing suits.
Really? Somebody showed him a bathing suit?
Sure, that happens it's particularly in Ocean City District Court.
Oh, okay.
That would something like that.
You travel around.
I used to travel statewide. I don't. We'll get to that in a minute. Let me finish with the dress.
Okay.
My suggestion is to anybody who's coming to court that they wear appropriate attire. Does that mean a three-piece suit? No. Even the lawyers don't wear those too much anymore. Most of them, some of them wear suits, a lot of them wear suits, but sport coats, shirt and tie, even in people who work, for instance, many people are coming from work or going back to work in the summertime. They may wear shorts and a shirt as far as their uniform. Even police officers wear shorts these days on the job. That's acceptable attire. The police have regulations from their chief as to what they can wear here. They probably can't wear their shorts in here. But as far as the court is concerned, we're neutral with regards to attire as long as it's not outlandish or ultra revealing or something like that. Although I would recommend people wear relatively conservative. They don't wear weird T-shirts that say strange things and have logos that are inappropriate, which we do have happen from time to time.
Let me switch subjects. What is the most common excuse that you get for speeding? Is it I had to go to the bathroom?
That probably would be one of the top two or three. Yes.
What are the others? And the answer to that is not that's their fault, right? It's not.
Sure, late for work. late for school, late for an appointment, late to pick up the kids at the babysitters, things like that. Those would be the most typical. The other most typical is...
Does that change your mind on?
No. No, I mean, if they're speeding, they're speeding. Do I listen to that? Absolutely. They have an absolute right to be heard by the court. It may change what the ultimate result is. It does not necessarily change their guilt or innocence. That's an excuse. It's not a legal defense to speeding, that you're late for work or something like that, or you had to go to the bathroom. But do I take that into consideration in figuring out what the bottom line, the fine or result is going to be? Of course. You listen to people, and that's the thing. The most important thing a district court judge can do is to listen to what the people have to say when they're in here. That's our job.
How many people say, I have absolutely no excuse?
Many. I get many people who will come in here and say, Judge, I'm pleading guilty. I was speeding. I don't have any excuse. I get a lot of that.
How about the people who say, I'm not guilty, and I have
a trial? In the case of minor traffic, such as speeding tickets or red lights or that kind of thing, if the policeman who wrote the citation is not here for whatever reason, then the individual is going to be found not guilty. If the officer is here, or in the case of an accident, if the witnesses to the accident are here, then we have a trial. Everybody has an absolute right to have a trial, to plead not guilty and have their case heard by the court and have the court decide beyond a reasonable doubt to a moral certainty whether they're guilty or not. They have an absolute right to do that. So that's just, if they plead not guilty, we have a trial. That's my job.
Have you enjoyed your job for 27 years?
Absolutely.
You're excited to come up?
Absolutely. Love to come to work every single day.
Is it community service that is the basis for that? Justice?
Well, I guess justice, and that's a pretty general term. I would say that the thing that is my goal as a judge is to see to it that everybody who comes into this courtroom is treated fairly, politely, with respect, and equally. And that's my goal.
That's great. Is there anything else you'd like to communicate?
Not really.
Not really?
I can't think of anything.
Well, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you for having me do the interview. I appreciate that.